The cafe buzzed with bodies yet felt as cold as a graveyard. In the middle of it, a man in a frayed coat and scuffed shoes sat unnoticed like a ghost paying for warmth. Behind the counter, Clyde leaned close to Mara, his voice sharpened for the stranger to hear. "Boss is probably off counting his piles. We break our backs for pennies. Why bother treating anyone well?" Mara's glance slid toward the man in the coat, her smile thin, cruel. "Look at him. Dirt Papour doesn't even deserve a word." The stranger's hand tightened on the porcelain cup until it trembled. Inside him, silence swelled heavy, dangerous. The paradox cut through the air. The man they mocked as worthless was the one who owned it all. The customer, they scorned, was Jackson, their boss. "If you've ever been treated this way, hit like now." Jackson had not always carried silence like armor. Years ago, his hands knew the sting of winter air as he pushed a rickety coffee cart down cracked sidewalks. The wheels groaned against the pavement. The kettle rattled, but he kept moving because stopping meant hunger. On nights, when frost bit through his jacket, he brewed coffee as if it were warmth itself. Steam curled like breath, and he handed cups to strangers with a smile that defied exhaustion. Some offered loose coins, others a simple thank you. Each tip, each nod, each smile fed more than his pockets. It fed a fragile dream that refused to die. He saved cup by cup. Until one morning he unlocked the door of his first cafe. The walls smelled of fresh paint. The air carried hope. Customers filled the room, and Jackson greeted each as though they were family walking into his home. That belief became his compass. A cafe was not about drinks alone, but about belonging. Over time, one cafe became many. Yet the pride in him never came from numbers, never from profit sheets. It came from the way people lingered in his spaces unhurried safe. He built not stores but shelters of warmth. Now sitting in the same kind of cafe he once dreamed into existence, Jackson heard words that cracked his chest. Words that said his staff saw customers not as family, but as burdens. Words that threatened to erase everything his hands had once bled to build. The man in the worn coat was not some forgotten drifter. He was the soul of the cafe itself, and hearing his life's work mocked by those entrusted to carry it forward, this was the wound he feared most. Jackson had not come to the cafe for numbers, profit sheets, and ledgers could tell him sales, but not soul. He came for something no chart could measure, the heartbeat of the place he once built with bare hands. Disguised in worn clothes, he slipped among strangers without recognition. No title, no respect, owed no name spoken, just a man at a table, silent, unseen. That was exactly what he wanted, to see his people as they were when they thought no one important was watching. He remembered how it used to be when he was the one behind the counter. How he would catch a customer's eye, greet them as though they mattered more than the coffee itself. Back then, he believed every smile poured into a cup stayed long after the taste was gone. That was the value he guarded above all. His philosophy was simple. If those who served lived the values of kindness and respect, then every customer would carry joy back into the world. That joy would return again multiplied, and the cafe would thrive not just as a business, but as a sanctuary. Sitting there, Jackson felt the weight of that belief pressing against him. Today was not about judging a balance sheet. It was about testing whether the spirit he had planted still lived, or whether it had withered into routine. He watched every movement behind the counter, searching not for speed, not for efficiency, but for